Hello and welcome. My name is Machiavelli, and here are my picks for UFC 316. Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. I really like this fight. It's going to be fun, competitive, and regardless of the result, who wins, we know that one guy is going to get a performance bonus. That's what I would have said if the UFC had booked this fight maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think now that we're getting this fight in 2025, it's not bad per se, but these two are nowhere near their prime or at their peaks anymore. Okay, so I spoke about Kevin Holland before on his fight with Reinier de Ridder, and at the time I tried to be a bit respectful to Kevin Holland's credentials because I like to rate the Travis Lutter black belt highly, but I sort of touched on the point how despite his accolades, so to speak, he never seems to utilize it for his frame, and we see it time and time again. Holland always accepts the bottom position and gets ragdolled or manhandled, if not outstruck. With that said, Kevin Holland has since come off a win over Gunnar Nelson at UFC London, but I'll be honest with you right now, I don't necessarily rate a win over Gunnar Nelson, a guy who fights once every 3 years or so. I don't rate that too highly over an old man, just a layup win. We all know that Kevin Holland is one of Dana's boys, right? He's got that Dana white privilege. So as long as he gets a win at least once a year, once every other fight, he's always going to have a spot on the main card, regardless of a pay-per-view, fight night, main event, something like that. So it doesn't really surprise me to find him here in this spot. This does not explain why Kevin Holland is the betting favorite in this fight, though. I think that's quite crazy, and just for the odds in of itself, I'm very tempted to go with Luque. Unless the odds makers know something we don't, I don't see any way on how Kevin Holland can beat Vicente Luque in this fight. Okay, I feel like it is important to note that comparatively, Vicente Luque is not as active as Holland, and you can make a very good argument that Luque is not really the same fighter he was 4, 5, 6 years ago because of all the wear and tear, the damage he's had. But people forget, man, Vicente Luque, he actually knows how to use his jiu-jitsu and pose as a submission threat, unlike Kevin Holland. I am not entirely sure who would have the striking advantage here, but I feel as though Luque is certainly going into this fight more composed, ready to win. He still has the championship mentality, rather than Holland, who he said it time and time again. We brought this up. We all know this point. He's just here for a paycheck, here to make highlights and get out. I really do think this is super easy to call for Vicente Luque to either get a unanimous decision type win, if not a submission. Kevin is simply going to be outskilled, and if he gives Luque a mistake, opens up his neck, it's going to be taken. But if not, he's probably going to be smudged to a UD win. Mario Bautista versus Patchy Mix. Okay, to put it simply, I think Mario is going to win this fight by a decision simply because he is more skilled, is more patient, and maybe has fought better competition. I know who Patchy Mix is, and I've seen him fight a few times before, so I won't say that he's an absolute nobody or that he's not good, because you have to keep in mind, Patchy Mix certainly has a much higher finishing potential than Mario does, And he is the former Bellator champion coming off a win. So I feel like that also has some type of factor that could be accounted for. So let's recap his title reign for a moment. Patchy Mix won his title by knockout against Rafian Stotts. The same Rafian Stotts who is known as Merab's son. You know, who got flatlined by Merab Dvalishvili several years ago, and then since has gotten flatlined by Patchy Mix, just so we're all aware. Patchy has then since defended his title in 2023 against the Sergio Pettis in his prime in the ripe 2023, just so we're all aware. After all that, he had then since defended his belt by a razor close split decision against the Magomed Magomedov. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, Magomed Magomedov? With a name like that, you must know that he's good to beat a guy with that such credentials? Oh, for sure, he's a beast. Yeah, it's all fun and games until you take a look at Magomedov's record, realize he never got to the UFC because he's not that good. Lost to Piotr Jan, lost to Stotts. So you just know this guy doesn't hold up at bantamweight. So my overall point is that Patchy Mix and his Bellator title reign, yeah, the names he has aren't bad at face value, but it is certainly not something too noteworthy or worth bringing up, other than the fact that he has finishing potential and it's on his win record. But I digress. I don't know if I'm just trying to be different or if I think this is a safe pick, but I think Mario Bautista is going to win simply because he'll have better defense. He'll try and play it safe and go for yet another boring win, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Now, I can speak for a few minutes and give off an NPC answer, saying the typical, oh, Kelvin's a recognizable figure, he's been in the Zuffa organization for so long, so it's easy to root for him, it's easy to be a fan of him, yada yada. All that said, he is fairly inconsistent regardless of what I think of him, because if you take a look at his record, it is quite ugly no matter which way you look at it, regardless of the names or competitiveness within each fight. This guy is just known to lose, have good moments in his losses, which is why the UFC keep bringing him back. He's a company man, that sort of thing. The salty man Joe Pyfer is a teammate of Sean Brady, so I think these two have worked pretty closely together throughout both their training camps for Gastelum, so they're going to know how to deal with this style. He's going to have the grappling advantage. Pyfer is going to be bigger physically. He'll probably outstrike Gastelum and put Gastelum on the back foot, making him sloppy and slow. So I think Joe Pyfer will get this fight done by a decision, because Kelvin Gastelum, he has a brick head, so he's always going to take big shots and wear damage pretty well. I never see him getting knocked out, so Joe Pyfer's going to piece him up. He's probably going to force Gastelum into the takedowns, to which Pyfer will stuff and then goes right back to the striking, to which he'll have an advantage. So that's how I see this fight going forward. Other than that, there's really not much to talk about. I don't know how interesting it really is, so I'm moving on. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. I don't know if this is a fight worth overthinking, unlike some of the others, so I'm not really going to harbor on this one too long. I think Kayla Harrison is going to win this fight by a fairly competitive-ish decision, or maybe a finish. I have to admit though, those betting odds are very tempting, and it looks pretty easy to just sneakily put a few dollars down on Pena and to just hope for the best. I've already mentioned it a few times with a few other fighters, but I don't know if it would apply to this fight. What I mean is the experience and resume overall. This is WMMA, so everything I say can be moot. So I could mention and go in depth about her long credentialed history in the UFC, how she's been in the Ultimate Fighter and the Zuffa promotion for almost a decade, I would imagine. But if you take a closer look, in that same time, at least recently these past few years, she hardly fights. Ever since she became the champion, she became one of those stingy, oh, I'm going to pick and choose my fights, I'm only going to fight once a year, if that. And because of that, I think Kayla will get it done just because she is a better athlete, she's never been champion, and wants it more. It's fairly easy to clown on Pena and to show off her quote-unquote highlights in the octagon, whereas Kayla, if you take a look at her, everyone would just see that she is a better athlete and looks stronger, probably more well-rounded. But does anyone else get the sneaking suspicion that Juliana Pena could somehow manage to sneak a split decision win? Either way, I don't necessarily care, so I will move on. Kayla Harrison will win. Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. Okay, so there are a few narratives going into this fight that people are talking about, and we will break it down for a minute because I think both of them are just quite silly. There's the first mention of Merab, his toe, the fact that he has a bad weight cut or something along those lines. People like to bring up how Merab is always injured and he comes into all these fights with some type of ailment. It's the fact that Merab himself is quite vocal about it and he always shares every time he gets hurt or he pulls some stunt on social media which backfires. Sean O'Malley, on the other hand, man, this guy is locked in. At this point, we know about it all. He's not dyeing his hair. Bro stopped gooning. He stopped hitting the pen. He stopped smoking and drinking, right? This guy, Sean O'Malley, is the real deal. Now he's taking his career seriously. We are ready for Sean O'Malley 2.0. But now it's time for a bit of a reality check. See, I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing for O'Malley. If he wants to go sober, he's fully locked into the gym, logs out of his social media. That's certainly a factor that can help, right? But what we have to keep in mind is that Merab, he is always a professional. I don't think Merab is the type of guy to smoke, drink, anyway. Whereas Sean O'Malley, he's known to indulge and to have fun let loose when he's not in camp. There's also the narrative that Sean likes to push, saying that he was injured in his training camp for the first fight. He had a torn labrum in his shoulder, which is why he couldn't grapple and wrestle. So are we really supposed to believe that 9-10 months later that this Sean O'Malley who stopped gooning, who stopped smoking and drinking, that this Sean O'Malley is now ready to stop all of Merab's takedowns? He's ready to keep his cardio in check, go 5 full hard rounds and knock Merab out? Are we really supposed to expect that? I'm just not a fan of the timing of this fight. I'll be so honest with you. I think right now this immediate rematch for Sean is probably the worst decision he could make. Sean did have success in the first fight. Looking back at it, breaking it down strike by strike, the first fight was competitive, even though Merab clearly and easily won that. If Sean had gone off and fought other contenders in the division, maybe had gone on a 2-3 fight winning streak, let Merab stay as champion and get a few defenses under his belt to build up the rematch at a later date, aging Merab out, making him take these 5-round training camps over and over again, I would then be more willing to pick Sean O'Malley to win this fight by aging him out, making Merab take more damage overall in his career. But the fact that it's happening now, after Merab is coming off a victory over Umar Nurmagomedov, I think these factors are stacked against O'Malley. There are certainly a few things Sean can do in this fight to make it more competitive, to win, to maybe catch Merab. But with everything I just said, with all these factors in mind, I don't think Merab right now in this prime of his career, like his peak, I don't think he can be beat. What will happen to O'Malley once he loses this fight? Because then he will be 0-2 with the current reigning champion. Sure, there are ways for him to find himself in a third fight. It's been done before and it can happen again. I don't think these 10 months that he's had is enough for Sean to win the belt and to look good while doing it. All jokes aside, yes, it's good that he locked in. It certainly helps with his motivation, but what does it do for his skills? Did his grappling defense level up in ways we couldn't imagine during this time off? Did he have some type of saucy help for his recovery? Either way, regardless, I think Merab is going to win this fight by a unanimous decision. Okay, so in conclusion, these will be my picks for UFC 316. I know this video is certainly a little bit later than I wanted it to be. I didn't really have much to say about some of the other fights when I could have had more. But overall, I feel like this card is somewhat filler. You know, there are better cards that are happening soon, and people are saying this rematch is undeserved. This fight shouldn't happen, but either way, I don't really care. Both guys just really wanted to fight. Merab just wants a chance at easy money again because Sugar Sean's a star, huh? And Sean O'Malley is just using his Dana White privilege for a chance at the belt. There's not really any deserving or earning contender right now, so I don't really mind this fight. The card is decent, and some of the prelims are actually pretty nice and sneaky, so I will pay attention to that. So I guess that is it. I want to thank everyone for watching and tolerating me up to this point. I appreciate all of your engagement, truly. From here on out, I will try and be more consistent and earlier with these MMA picks, as the next few cards are actually pretty good and have good value, so I want those to be taken seriously, so to speak. One more thing I would like to mention is that later this month, in a few weeks, Death Stranding 2 will release, and not only will I be playing that, I will be streaming it on my channels that I have listed. I mean, obviously, if I didn't want someone to watch, I wouldn't have it posted and linked, but I'm just doing this for fun, so I wouldn't expect or really ask anyone to watch or sub if they're not interested, but I would appreciate it. Okay, that's it. Good luck to your parlays, everyone. See you next time, and